Welcome back to the CTO Playbook, the podcast dedicated to helping CTOs excel. In this episode, I'm going to take you behind the scenes with me and talk about how the show is produced and put together, and introduce you to some of the people and the tech that goes into it. I'm your host, Adam Horner. As a coach for CTOs from startups to enterprises, I empower tech leaders to escape the cycle of lurching from crisis to crisis and build the skills to lead with clarity, confidence, and purpose. I provide practical, personalized coaching tailored to the challenges faced in your organization, helping each CTO shift from reactive problem solving to proactive, strategic leadership. I help each CTO forge their own path for growth, allowing them to delegate confidently, align engineering with the business, and fully step into their role as a trusted, respected peer at the executive table. This podcast enables me to bring some awesome playbooks to you and the many CTOs that are looking to broaden their knowledge base. Between me and my guests, we cover valuable topics for executive tech leaders, providing insights, strategies, and practical advice to help you build and refine your own playbook so that you can excel as a CTO. Now, as I said, I wanted to take you behind the scenes. And to do that, I want to take you a bit into the process of putting this podcast together as well. So what do I get out of it? I get to meet new people. I get to learn even before you folks do, but learn in a new way. Playbooks really are for the listeners, for you, with actionable takeaways where you can expand the understanding of the whole CTO role. So once I've actually recorded an episode, so it goes on a cadence, there's about every 4 weeks, I have 3 guests and 1 solo episode from me. Normally, this 4 weeks, we've got an extra one, which is this behind the scenes view, just because it's fun. So I have a podcasting production company who help out with this in a huge way. That's Prodigy Podcasts. They're a husband and wife team, just like Janine and I. Janine's my wife. There's a bit of a connection there from the point of view of that, several connections. We'll uncover them over a go. But one of them is Vancouver, where my wife Janine lived for a while when she was younger. And that's where Justin's from. Celine is from Italy, so this side of the Atlantic in Europe originally, but they're living together. Last I knew, they were traveling around Europe, living in northern Italy. So that's the actual production of it. In terms of recording, you probably notice it's quite dark. It's late. I always record very late. Part of that is because I've got 3 young kids. And so to avoid having them thumping around upstairs, I'm in the basement where my office is, where my studio is. And to avoid all that noise, I record late at night, normally. The other thing I want to take you through is some of the tech. Chief Technology Officer, after all, some of the tech that we actually used to put this together is something I get asked about quite a lot. So I wanted to just quickly take you behind the scenes. Some of this actually works. I've got all the kit that I use written down, so I'm probably going to refer to that a few times, either on the iPad or on my computer here. Let's take you through, well, it's a podcast, right? Let's take you through the audio first. So the microphone is the Shure SM7B, and this is the sound you're hearing right now. And the microphone is supported on a very low profile microphone boom, which you can probably see there. This microphone boom is the Elgato low profile wave mic arm. And I like this because it keeps it very low to the desk and keeps it out of my way for the vast majority of the time. Allows me to put my hands underneath it to reach my keyboard without getting in the way and moving cleanly out of it. So I'm just going to switch cameras now, and I'm going to switch audio as well. So now you can probably hear me through my AirPods. Not quite the same in terms of audio quality. And I'm going to talk you through some of the other pieces of kit that we have that lighting us up here. So the audio that I use, which I don't have at the moment, the headphones that I normally use, these are very small. These are in-ear monitors. These are from Sennheiser, and these are the IE200. Apparently there is a more expensive cousin of these. It's IE500 or something, but these sound great, very small, unobtrusive, and just curl behind my head. And that sound is rooted around the back of my desk, all the way under into, or at least the sound is rooted out of, the Rodecaster Duo which is a sound deck that I use. I use it in a relatively simple way. So microphone plugged into it, headphones plugged into it. And I use some of the faders every now and again. But I also have some of the sound rigged up on there. And I'll take you through some of that a little bit later on. So that's the Rodecaster Duo, sort of the heart of the audio. And the other things I have on here, I just want to point out is my desk. It looks black because I've got a neoprene desk cover on there. And that means when I'm tapping away on my keyboard or banging around on things, the sound doesn't travel all the way through that and up into the microphone, which is a key thing when I've got the microphone boom attached to the desk. So the other thing you might see behind me over here is I've got a blanket on the wall. This is just an IKEA fleece blanket, which just helps deaden some of that sound reflection around this basement room, because otherwise it's just a concrete room, the sound reflecting off everything. And then over here, just walk over to this, I have another sound panel, which is, there's an IKEA whiteboard on the other side of it, and this is just a felt panel on this side. So that's some of the things I do to try and get the sound to be as good as possible. Some of it's really low tech, isn't it? To try and keep the sound up. Just sound blanketing things really helps the quality of it, and it's very low tech. Let's talk about that video briefly. Have a look at my screen here. So I use this for my video conferencing, my video calls, and everything else as well. So this is just a sort of a no brand 1080p webcam. I haven't mounted on top of this 4K monitor I use, which is a Lenovo ThinkVision, and that's where the video feed comes from. It's nothing special. If I could upgrade one part of my kit, that would probably be the next bit, and that's it for the audio and the video. So most of the good stuff in the video, it comes from the lighting. So I'm just going to take you through some of the lights that I've got. So we briefly saw this one earlier on, but this up here, this great big light, well, it looks like it's a big light. It's actually, and I just got to check, it's the Amaran 60XS. So this is a very small, compact key light that I use to light up my face straight onto me. And on top of that, I've got an Aperture Light Dome Mini 3. Now, it's a particularly small light dome, this one. It's only about 80 centimeters across, I think, but it's because I'm quite close to the lights, typically with this carton on the front of it. The light's very direct onto my face. Doesn't need to be turned up too bright, and because it's so close, I don't need a huge diffuser. The advantage of this mini light dome is that it collapses really small. So when we want to take the studio elsewhere and travel, it collapses down nice and quickly. So the 60XS, the Light Dome Mini 3, and then that's standing on a small rig telescoping tripod to support the light. And again, the choice of that one is that it goes very small to pack away so that we can travel with that nice and easily. So let's have a look at some of the other lights I've got behind me. Now, the light you'll see up here, this tube light up here, I've got two of these. They're just very cheap, no-name brand tube lights. I've got another one over here that the battery is died on it again. So this lights up off this reflector here, and that provides the side light for me so that sort of lights up the back of my head and the side of my head, so I don't just look as I'm lit from one place. And going further around towards the back here, we have a light on the left-hand side as you look at me. Now, this light, I keep hidden behind something. This is an Aperture MC Pro. Very nice little light. I'm actually powering it from the mains at the moment, but that was also battery as well. And this is great because it's got a magnet on the back of it, so you can stick it onto anything you need to. At the moment, I just hid it behind there, and that lights up that blue on one side of me most of the time. Occasionally, the other colors as well. And that's great because that also has a couple of different diffusers on it, and that can actually take a carton light onto it as well, so it can direct the light too. On the other side of me, I have a Aperture accent bulb. And this bulb is quite fun because you can put it into a light fixture like this. This is just an IKEA globe lamp. I live in Sweden, so I like to support the local shops. So IKEA is where a lot of this stuff comes from. So this bulb not only goes inside a light fixture like that, you can also be removed. It's got a small battery inside it, because you can take it out and literally hold it in your hand. It's quite magical when you hold that. You feel like you're holding a light in your hand. But those two lights provide the backlighting, the colored lighting for me, and then these side lights and reflectors. But all of this stuff is spec such that it can be quite small and taken on the road, probably with the exception of the Rodecaster. It's probably the biggest physical bit of kit we've got. The rest of it's all very small. So I'm going to switch back now to the main camera and the main audio to talk about some of the software that I use and some of the other bits and pieces we've got. So let's just quickly swap that over. There we go, back on the main microphone. Some of the other things I wanted to point out that is enabled by the combination of the on-laptop software I use, as well as the abilities of the Rodecaster Duo, which can output a MIDI signal from some of the key buttons on there as well. So the software I use to control the lights, and I'll actually just show the whole light sequence here. So I'm using a piece of software called Sidus Link, and so I'm going to use that camera there to show. There we go, there's Sidus Link. And so I'm going to turn all of these lights off so you can see the effect on the main screen here. So with all the lights off, all you can see is the side light shining on the back of me, which is the hair light. And this sort of, my hair's pretty big at the moment. It hasn't been cut in a while. It's normally my wife that cuts my hair, and she's insistent that I'm lucky that I've got this much hair at this age. So that's a pretty good thing. But if I turn these lights on one by one, I'm going to start off by turning on the panel light, which is the blue light on one side of me. So you can see that begins to light up the background. And now the strength of the side light shows you just how weak that is, because the camera automatically adjusts to itself. Then I've got the globe lights on the opposite side of it, and that glows that pink. So the blue and the pink are set with those levels to balance each other off, so the color gradient is roughly in the middle behind my head. And then if I turn the key light on from in front of me, you'll see that once the camera adjusts to the brightness of that, that's the bit that gives that classic shape and color to the light. And this is all courtesy of my wife setting this up. You'll also notice there that I'm using OBS, Open Broadcast Software. And I've been using that for a while. I don't have a huge amount of configuration in there, but there's a couple of things that are quite useful. One is that I'm using the preview broadcast mode, and a lot of people say you shouldn't use that. But one of the main reasons for that is because I can switch off the camera this way. And this is just a scene that I have, and that allows me to change the scene that's running on the back. So, for example, I can change it so that it's got different logos on it before I bring that back to being on screen. I can also share my laptop screen with that as well. So I can share that. So if I now bring that back on, you can see that I've now enabled my camera there from the camera off scene. And that's the reason why I use the broadcast mode for that. So OBS, relatively simple, straightforward, a bunch of different sceneries in there. I think I've got one plugin that allows me to do sliding or moving of the scene elements from one place to another. And then the other thing I have is the buttons that I use on the Rodecaster allowed me to very quickly switch using the MIDI interface there as well. So that's the sort of the key things about the software that I use. The only other piece of software that's really important for what I do, obviously I use a Mac, so there's a whole bunch of things that I do use, but the other part about recording is I use Riverside, which is this application that records there. And Riverside, I don't really do anything special with it. It takes the recordings. I take the recordings and give those over to, as I say, Justin and Celine and their team, who then produce the sound and the video into the wonderful results that you all see. In fact, on the audio, one of my guests, in fact, is Stephen, who was my founder at my first startup where I was a founder. He said that's the first time I've heard my own voice on a recording that sounds exactly the same as I hear in my head. Those guys are clearly doing something absolutely great with the sound from that perspective. Yeah, so I mentioned my support to the local shop. So I have an IKEA standing desk, which I use. That's how I keep it up at this height, keep the altitude of all of these things nice and high, because I stand up the vast majority of my time. And because I stand up almost all the time, I also have a big foot pad underneath, which is sort of a great big piece of neoprene gel to stand on, which keeps it nice and soft for my feet as well. And in the winter, when it gets cold here, it's nice and warm. So that one of the other interesting connections with Justin and Celine is, and I'm just going to swap over to it here, is this, which you'll recognize from the beginning of the podcast. Now, that piece of music is actually from a single that Justin put out, Justin J. Moore, as his music name is. So you may have heard this track before. It's a track called Keep It, produced by Morris Hoven, who very gracefully allowed us to use the clip of it. So, and those are the key things that go into the podcast. So, as always, having a look behind the scene at how other people do things technically is kind of quite fun. And at the same time, there's a lot of things that people sort of try and compare to what they're doing as well. And I have to say, I use exactly the same setup for doing my video calling. So if you ever want to have a chat with me about coaching or about anything else, and you jump on a call, you're going to see exactly the same thing as you're used to seeing from the podcast, assuming you watch it on YouTube. So there's a little look behind the scenes. And I hope you found that was a lot of fun. I certainly have had fun putting the podcast together. And as always, if you have questions, do get in touch. Talk soon. Thank you very much for listening all the way through to the end. Just before you go, I'd like to ask you for one thing in return for putting together all these episodes of the CTO Playbook podcast for you. Please leave a review. Wherever you're listening, whether that is Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whichever platform you're on, leaving a quick review will help more CTOs find the podcast and enable me to create more great episodes. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the CTO Playbook.